Hello, this is Susan. Welcome to the showcase. The app showcase. Oh, bloody hell, I stuttered. But today I'm going to be talking about. See if I can get the name up here. It should be somewhere. Here we go. Monster Legends. And you might hear some noises because I'm actually playing it at the time to get some information. But this is a free app game. This is a highly recommended monster caring game. Now, monster caring games all have a similar layout. You know, you wait a certain amount of time for something to be built, and then you put a monster in it. You feed the monster a certain amount of food, and then it gains a level, and then it wants more food. You build farms to grow the food, and you have to wait for the farms to give you your food. And then you collect money from the animals after a certain amount of time, and then you breed them together to get new monsters. And I have to say the designs are rather creative. I do like the designs in this game. Certainly very interesting. You won't expect the designs you get here. One of the things that's really good about Monster Legends is that there are a lot of events. It's always active with some kind of event. At the moment, they have an event which is a 72-hour challenge, where you randomly use these credits which you get from doing anything in your farm, because such as collecting money or feeding your monsters. You get some points, and then when you had enough, you use it to play a mini game where you might win a monster. A lot of that things happen. A lot of the game has a lot of events like that, where you can win random rare monsters or breed a certain monster for a certain amount of time, and it really is a whole lot of fun. I do enjoy it. The artwork is very good. Yet again, the artwork is good for this game. And it has a fighting system. It has a little quest thing where you select a level and it tells you what level monsters there are there, and you have to beat them. Similar to like Pokemon, there is elemental differences that allow you to there are elemental differences which allow you to have stronger or weaker attacks against them, and so it works like that. It works like Pokemon. Except it doesn't always work by the rules of Pokemon in the elements. Sometimes they are not weak against plant, even though they're not weak against fire, even though they're plant type, and things like that. It gets a bit confusing. So really you have to do it by experience to know how it works. But it is pretty simple and easy to understand. You'll definitely get the hang of it. Every button tells you what it does, so you can figure it out pretty easily. Plus, this game always has something that you're able to do. The waiting times are very reasonable. It takes a long time for you to get waiting times where you have to wait whole days for it to do it. Whereas other games, you can do that from the very beginning. I know, there's some apps which have very annoying waiting times. This game has quite good waiting times. So you'll always find something to do with it in every few minutes or every hour. So that makes it very interesting, especially considering the fighting thing gives your monsters experience, and it gives you experience for you to level up and unlock new things, and that unlocks a credit every 30 minutes. So there's always something to do every hour at least in that game. This game, Monster Legends, is available 9+ for some mild cartoon fantasy violence. And this one does connect to Facebook. The only way that you can use friend connections is through Facebook, or by sharing your content ID or something like that. So I don't like to share through Facebook because I don't think it's very safe. But you don't really need friends on this. All they do is give you extra experience. It's not one of the things that's necessary. In some of these games, having friends is pretty much necessary because it gives you something incredibly important. In this game, it just gives you a bit more experience. It isn't really that important. Although sometimes your friends can give you new monsters if your friends contribute to this kid friends thing, and there's like a trading post. I guess they are quite good, but it's not necessary. You can play the game plenty easily enough without friends. That's what I've discovered. So it's not one of the things which forces you to have friends. It requires iOS 7.0 or later, compatible with iPhone, iPad, and iPod Touch. And the languages are English, Finnish, French, German, Italian, Japanese, Korean, Portuguese, Russian, simplified Chinese, Spanish, and Turkish. There's quite a lot of languages available in this one. When I was reviewing my other one, it was only available in English, so that's cool. And yes, this is a highly rated game. It's 28 ratings and it has 4.5 stars. I'd say it's my favorite. I'd go as far as to say it's one of my favorite, if not the favorite, monster caring game, because I do like playing the monster caring apps. So I would highly recommend this one, especially considering how active it is, where a lot of the time they're not very active, and you have to wait hours or days for anything to actually happen. So I said this one's actually a very good one for that purpose. Plus there are achievements in this game, and although if I was going to give a negative, I would say that when you go into the shop, it's rather annoying that there's these the special offers come up first in the menu, meaning that you can often have to scroll for forever in order for you to get to the ones which don't cost any actual money. But there is a lot of events in this game where you can win, like I said, paid credits. So if you actually bother to participate in all these different events, you can actually gain paid credits pretty well. Although you'll have to wait obviously a lot longer than paying actual money, you will eventually get enough for you to be able to make some upgrades. Like for example, I have got myself an extra worker so I can do 3 upgrades at the same time instead of 2, and I've upgraded my egg hatching so I can have 2 egg hatches instead of 1. You can actually do that even though it requires paid credits because I've done the events. So because of that, I say it's a very flexible game. It gives you quite a lot of leeway for these things. And I'm unlocking more and more things with this game. I've played it for weeks and I still am discovering new things, like new quests. Like I'm about to unlock this lab where you're able to use these cells to upgrade your monster's abilities. And I'm discovering new elements to breed with them, and it's always interesting to find out what new breeds I can discover. And every time I make a new breed, it makes like a little video animation which you can watch again by checking the options in the top right. It shows you a little video of your monster growing up, so you know how it will look as it goes through development, and it shows you them doing an attack with a bunch of scarecrows, so you can see what their attacks are like. So I like that little bit of feature, and the music is rather nice as well. And the main reason why I like it is because there's a lot of different features. Might seem a bit overwhelming at first, but really you don't have to participate in a lot of these things that are flashing on the screen. They're just options. They're not necessary. So this game is a lot of fun. I highly recommend it. Oh, you can also choose a name if you go on the settings. It took me a while to find this, but you can choose a name if you go into settings, and you can choose the face of a certain set of monsters as your avatar picture, if you're not connected to Facebook, that is. If you're connected to Facebook, then it will pick your Facebook avatar. And you can, there's also the battle arena, where you can go and battle other players and steal their resources, their food and their money, which can be a very good way for you to quickly get money and food, considering the fact they can take you a long time with your farms. Yes, and there's also this dungeons thing where you can use your venturing quest things to use the dungeons instead, but that's a lot harder than the dungeons, so I'm not really up to that yet. There's always something you can do. I would recommend that you try and breed as many different ones as possible, so that you can have a lot of monsters producing a lot of money, because you're going to need it. Also, try and save money for an expansion, because you'll also need that soon, and it does cost several million. Like I said, also go participate in the events so you can unlock the gems and save them up so you can get bigger egg hatchery and another worker, because that is incredibly useful. You really will want to save your credits for that, not for anything else. And also you need to make sure that you build the temples which allow your monsters to go a higher level than level 10, things like that, because there's level caps if you don't build them. Extra buildings to make their levels go higher, and I would recommend trying to make your monsters all at least level 10 when it becomes a bit more difficult for you to do it with how many farms you have. Make them about level 8 to 10 each, because the higher level they are, the more money they make. And the more money they make, the more grades you can make, the more things you unlock, the more money, the more upgrades you can have for your farms, the more food you can have, all that sort of thing. It works out well in the long run, rather than you just although I would recommend that you pick a particular team and keep on leveling them up for the quest thing. I've got a certain team which are all around level 20 at the time being, which takes a long time, I'm telling you. It takes weeks. But they're able to finish the quests, and I have a slightly different team for the battle system. You can always change who they are, and you can train them up like Pokemon and swap them in and out. But for me, I prefer to just keep training the same set until they're able to beat the next stage, and then the next stage after that, next stage after that. It doesn't really matter about you having a balanced team, just as long as you don't have everyone at the same element, and you know what moves to use, and you keep on, and you make sure that you don't use only moves of a certain element, because you can swap the moves out like you do with Pokemon. You can swap the moves out, and since a recent update, you can actually change your moves at any time. So it doesn't matter if you lose a move which you kind of regret doing, but it does tell you how much strength it has and how much accuracy it has, and even before you attack them, it'll tell you how much damage it will do to the particular enemy when you're in the fighting system. So it really is very specific. So it's very, very good fighting system. I do enjoy it. It's not like other games where the fighting system's really awkward. I would say that, but like I said, the elements are sometimes rather confusing. They do not often apply to actual make sense. Like sometimes fire isn't strong against plant type. So it does depend. It's a bit awkward sometimes. So you'd have to test out the elements and see which ones are stronger and which ones are weaker. Something that I recommend, another tip, I'd say, something which I found with almost all of these farm games all at once, what I've found is that there is pretty much no point in you using the bigger sets of food. This is if you have a lot of spare time. If you don't, then obviously you'll want to spend your money on getting large sums of food which you can pick up once a day or something. But if you have time to sit and look at your game and check it every hour or something like that, then or even play the game for like a whole hour, just keeping an eye on it, which is what I tend to do, an hour at a time, and then I leave it for a few hours and then come back and swap through my different app games, because I've got a lot of spare time. And something I recommend is always use, if you have the time, always use the lowest amount of food in all your farms. And the good thing about this game is that it has a repeat all button. So when you have your smallest amount of crop, which I'm telling you is advisable to use, then you can tell all your farms to produce that crop over and over and over again. And the smallest crop in this game takes 30 seconds to produce. The reason why I recommend to do this, even though it obviously seems detrimental, considering the fact that you've got so much money spare, when you're a much higher level, you think, oh, why don't I just spend more money on getting more food? That's because you actually will have more food when you take the 30 seconds thing and keep on taking it, and when it comes out every 30 seconds, and save a lot more money by doing that, rather than actually paying for the larger set. Because when you pay for the larger set, even though it takes longer, it doesn't take... It gives you more time for less food than it does with the 30 seconds thing. So if you do it by the 30 seconds thing, you can actually gain a lot more food a lot faster. But that's only if you are actually willing to wait for the food and keep on checking it over and over again, like I'm doing right now. You can hear it going ding 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 ding. That's me playing the game and opening all my farms and getting all the food. Trust me, it's worth it. You'll level up your monsters much faster that way. Another way of doing it is that you can click on your different... Another recommendation is that when you want to do a build, click on it and check how long it takes, and try and do the ones which are the shortest time first. That way you can do more building in the one day, which is common sense, but that's a good idea. Another recommendation. And I recommend getting rid of a lot of objects as well, because sometimes objects can take a long time to get rid of, but it is worth removing the objects. And sometimes they can respawn. So when you remove the objects, you want to put something there so that the objects don't respawn on that island. Although, if you do find like a fallen meteorite place, then uncover them, because they can give you food and you can give you food and experience for unlocking them. Oh, also, when you get a higher level in this game, it doesn't ask you for money anymore for you to upgrade your habitats, which is where your monsters stay. You have to get a certain habitat for certain element monsters, and you can upgrade them for you to be able to have more monsters in the same habitat, or for you to be able to collect a bigger sum of money for when you leave them for a long time, because once they reach a certain amount of money, they'll stop producing money because they're full. So if you upgrade them, they'll have a higher money that they can go up to. But when you get to a higher level, it will suddenly stop asking you for money and start asking you for food instead, in order for you to upgrade. So if it does that, then just be warned. You're going to need some food, like about 3,000, I think it was, for some of these upgrades. You're going to need to save some food for that. And you can, like I said, you can get food pretty easily by going on the multiplayer fighting thing on the bottom left. And stealing some resources, although you have to pay money to keep on going around to find new opponents. I recommend you keep on checking and paying the money, especially if you have money spare. Keep on paying the money until you find someone who's a lower level than you, or around an equal level of you, so you know you can beat them. Because there's no point in not doing it, because you won't get any rewards. And those credits take a lot longer to replenish than the fighting ones do. But I've ended up talking about this game for quite a while, because this game's rather complicated. But thank you for listening, and I hope that helps, and I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you again next time. See ya!